All right, everyone, welcome back to the 9 to 5 Musician. I am delighted to be having our September Musician Memoirs interview with Austin Foster, who is a tenor and a currently aspiring speech pathologist who's in Alabama. So let's go ahead and welcome him in today. Let me bring him on in. Hello, Austin.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, just dandy. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. So, Austin and I go way back. We went to undergrad together. I think we met our second year because you
Mhm.
transferred, right?
Yes, yeah.
So,
Yeah, and then we got more acquainted when we were in choir together.
that's right.
So,
Yes.
good
And
times.
so you joined the choir the first year that you came in, right?
I did. I did. It was awesome
That was a
because
fantastic.
I didn't think that anybody was allowed to join the choir until like their junior or senior year. And then I got a text from Dr. Copeland after I had auditioned, and he said, "Hey, need to get you in choir," which
So
is, you know,
for everyone listening, that choir is very kind of like prestigious choir, and you have to audition. So you joined the choir, and then I joined the choir the semester after that, and I was kind of like starstruck. I was so like excited but scared to be there. So for everyone here, can you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your background in music, and then like sort of where you are today?
sure. Yeah. I'm Austin, as you've already said. I am from a small town just south of Birmingham called Columbiana. It's a very, very small town. I always tell people it's like Mayberry, if you're familiar with like the Andy Griffith show, like classical, just the classic small town in the country. Um, and went to Samford University, graduated from there with a Bachelor of Music in Voice Performance, and then went on to earn a second bachelor's degree in a Bachelor of Arts in Communicative Disorders from the University of Alabama. And that's where I currently am studying language pathology. And I'm a second year grad student. So almost done, um, unless I lose my mind and decide to go back to school again. And I'm currently living in Birmingham with my wife and our two dogs and our 49 houseplants, as I just explained to you earlier. So it's a good time.
Well, that sure is a lot. So, when I knew you at Sanford, you're a tenor, so your voice part is tenor, and you performed a lot. You were in a lot of productions, and you branched into a lot of different like genres, even musical theater or theater things like that. So, can you talk a little bit about the different like genres in music in general that you've been a part of, and sort of like what the experience is like and why it's important to kind of not put yourself in a box as a musician.
I love that's very eloquently said because I think that's so true. A lot of people think, okay, I'm going to stick with this genre or this genre. And in reality, the most successful musicians out there are the guys and girls who just get out there and do everything that they can, even if it's not their number one genre. So I got started as most musicians in the South probably have a similar story in the church, obviously. Um, from a very young age. Dad was a choir director, mom was an alto in the choir. And so I was always around music. And I really got my start doing gospel music, specifically Southern gospel, which, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of similar to black gospel. There are a lot of similarities, but it's got a little bit of a country uh, influence in there also. And did that through my teen years. And, I was in the marching band and I was in choir in high school. I recorded a couple things in gospel, was able to release those to radio and iTunes and stuff like that. And then uh, once I got to college, obviously, I did more of the classical things, which was what we were trained to do. And I loved it. It was awesome because I was learning awesome technique, incredible from an incredible professor, as you know. He was just amazing.
Oh yeah,
And
Brad. I totally
yes,
forgot about Dr. Diamond. Yeah, he's
oh yeah,
fantastic. Sorry, keep
we're
going.
gonna go see a movie together soon,
Oh
actually.
really?
So yeah,
What?
I still keep in touch with him. What a guy. Um, so in college, my favorite was the German leader, German art song, just because that's what my voice was built for. Singing opera, as you mentioned, some of the musical theater stuff, all that. I really didn't get too deep into that genre. I did when I was in college. I did the jazz band, and for like a part of a semester, I sang for the jazz band at Sanford, which was a lot of fun. But I also did some stuff with a backing band, like country, old country, uh, pop, old rock and roll, 60s, 70s style.
Oh no.
It,
Sorry.
oh no,
Oh, okay. I think it just
we're
timed out.
good.
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. And then let's see. I still do jazz. That's what I really perform now. That's kind of my main genre when I am asked to perform, before COVID times and before I was spending all my time at the clinic. That's my favorite genre to sing, probably because, well, for two reasons. One, no one's telling me to do it. No one's like, here, you have to do this for a grade, or we expect you to do this. So that's part of it because I get to be kind of a rebel in my own head. And two, I the best way to sing that is just so naturally. That's if you listen to Frank Sinatra speak and listen to how he sang, I mean, those two are very similar. The only difference is when he's singing, he's just speaking on an organized set of pitches. And so to me, technically, it's just so easy to sing and it's so good for the voice. A lot of genres, though, a lot of styles. I don't discriminate.
And that's, I mean, and that's not like super typical. I think some people branch into maybe like one or two other groups, but that's a lot of different, that's truly a lot of different, very, very like wide scope. You mentioned like knowing what your voice is built for, and that's really interesting to me because I mean, I love to sing, but like I've never taken a voice lesson in my life. And from the pedagogy side, I remember you getting very interested in technique and how the voice functions. So, like for maybe younger singers that might be listening, how can you go about finding like a good genre for your voice or knowing where its true placement is?
Well, so first is just try things. Don't be afraid to try different genres, and don't be afraid to, if you try something and you're like, it's really not for me, try it again, try a different song. And then if it's still not for you, wait a little while. Sometimes the voice can really grow into some things,
Mm.
because it's constantly changing. Your body's constantly changing. So the voice is constantly changing. So don't be afraid to try things. And secondly, find someone whom you trust. Don't only rely on your own ears. Go to, and not everybody can afford a voice teacher, obviously, and not everybody's going to find a voice teacher, but learn, listen to other musicians that you're around, listen to friends, listen to, random people on the street. Do I sound good singing this style? And people will tell you, maybe I would try something else, but you got to try first. You really have to try. And don't be afraid to just say that's not really my style. I've had to do that with a couple of things, and like opera. Everybody was in school was like, "Oh, I'm singing opera," and that's just not. I'm built for like the chamber style, like the light lyric things, small chamber oratorio things like that. Uh, I'm not going to go out and sing a Verdi opera because that's not how God made me,
That's actually so
unfortunately.
important, and that I feel that perspective as a composer. Like if I ever want to do a DMA, like you have to write really, really large pieces of music, and I think that's kind of the ultimate sign of respect for composers. Is like how big can you write? But like I know myself, like I'm really good at writing short pieces, vignettes, like smaller, more kind of intimate styles, and I just truly don't like writing those like larger pieces, and I think there's nothing wrong with that either. And we, especially in school, you get kind of caught up in like what should I be doing and what's, I don't know, the right genre. Like you said, opera, everyone was doing it, but like if it's not for you, then like what's the point? Um,
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that you didn't mention that I know you were a part of is the Barbershop Quartet, which is really cool. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna pin you for a second because I'm gonna go grab my charger. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with the Barbershop Quartet?
Yeah, sure. So, being in gospel music, something that's very well known in the gospel music style is quartets, and that's what I grew up listening to. My dad would play them all the time, because my dad has a radio show, still does, plays gospel music, and so I was always kind of fascinated with that gospel quartet style, and even sang for a professional quartet right out of high school, and decided, well, they weren't very nice people. So I decided to not uh, to forego that experience and just go on to college anyway, and go ahead and get a degree. And I'm glad I did. But while I was at Stanford, I had the opportunity to put together a tribute gospel quartet, to like a tribute to one of the very well-known old quartets that started. I mean, they sang with Elvis when he did his gospel stuff, and they were very prominent in the field and genre. And I had the opportunity to put that together, find the guys, arranged probably 90% of the music to that show for 4-part harmony, and even some 5-part harmony stuff, and co-directed the show. And it was a lot of fun to be able to do that and have the opportunity to work to that capacity. And I did forget about that. I can't believe I forgot to mention that, because that was a big fun part of being at Stanford, was singing with those guys. And it's neat to be able to dip into those styles and work with other people too. That was part of the fun of it. And also arranging the music and then getting to see those arrangements for 4-part voice come to life. It's just there's few things that are better than that.
I mean, that's also a lot of work, like arranging, and barbershop is a really specific sound too. I think the harmonic language is really specific, and if you don't do it a lot, like I probably wouldn't necessarily know how to just go off and arrange something like that. Um, Also, the recording process. So, when you're a classical musician, I would say the bulk of what you do is prepare for live performances. And recording can be such a different process. So, can you talk a little bit about like jumping between those things? Because recording can often be like really intimidating because you feel like you have to get this perfect take, whereas in a live setting you kind of just know whatever happens, and like then everything continues on.
Yeah, sometimes the worst thing you can have as a musician is a do-over,
Yeah.
because you get, oh, I messed that, because you're a perfectionist. I know you are,
Yeah.
and I am too. And so, and it's dangerous, because when you're in a studio, you're paying for that time.
Right.
It's not like someone's paying you. You are paying the studio, and it's usually like a buttload of money. Uh, and I don't even know. I mean, probably anywhere from $100 to $200 an hour, and not even including an engineer. So that's something that you just kind of go in, and you need to know you got to know the music, and if you make a mistake, if it's big enough to fix it, if it's going to like bother you and keep you awake and send you to an institution or something, then you should fix it. But if not, half the people out there aren't going to know anyway.
Yeah,
It's just like when you make a mistake when you're singing a performance or playing a live performance. If you make a mistake, people are still gonna they're still gonna be throwing roses and babies from the balcony, because you still did a great
yeah.
job. And chances are they forgot about it, or they didn't notice it.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit more, there's a slightly more personal experience when you're in person and you can see the people in the audience, and like there's a human aspect. So I think sometimes recording you feel like kind of distance from that like personal connection, and it can be kind of intimidating. So that's all very cool. And I wanted to sort of pivot a little bit because while you've had a very awesome music career, you're kind of on a different path now. So, can you talk about your decision to switch paths and when you felt that kind of pull to step away from a more performance oriented life and towards speech pathology?
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I might take a while with this, but I'll
Take your time.
try to abbreviate it. So, as you know as well as I do, when you're a senior, because I think we talked about this our senior year, everybody's coming up and saying, okay, where are you going to go to grad school? What are you going to do? Are you going to audition anywhere? Where have you auditioned? Are you going to stay around here? What are you going to study? Are you going to take a year? And you're like, oh my God, can I just have like 10 minutes
Like,
to
can I finish my degree?
please, because I'm not even sure I'm going to get there.
Yeah, let me get through finals.
Yeah, exactly. Or those final performances and juries and all that beautiful, beautiful junk. Uh, yeah. So, that kind of happened to me, and it's happened to you too, because I remember specifically speaking about that with you. And I thought, well, crap. I guess I'll just go and let's do a master's. Let's keep this rolling. That's what's expected of me. So,
Yeah.
and the goal was to like go get a master's in performance, maybe take a gap year, a couple of years off, work a little bit, and then go get a DMA or a PhD and teach, be an adjunct or an assistant or associate professor, and then sing for a professional choral group.
Hmm.
Uh, like Voce Aid, or if I'm even good enough, Tenebrae, somebody, Seraphic Fire,
Yeah.
like our beloved Dr. Diamond,
That's right. Yeah.
someone like that. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. That's fine. But I'd heard about speech pathology at some point at Stanford. One of our friends, actually, who's also studying speech pathology now,
Allie?
who was in music. Yeah, Allie.
Allie.
She mentioned it. And I was like, what the heck is speech pathology? And so I knew a little bit about it, but, probably like 0.5% of what I know now. And I don't even know everything about it now. But um, so I remember I got accepted to this certain school out in the Midwest, and because I was with you, I was next to you when I got the letter. We were sitting in Reed Chapel, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going here.
Well, I
And
guess that's
so,
it.
yeah, I guess thanks for my decision. Thanks for making that for me. So I went to the school, left my girlfriend, my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, and packed up everything, went there, and was just miserable. I mean, I had to drag myself to the practice room, and I was really depressed. I was really just in a bad state mentally because I was singing all the time. I had a full assistantship, so I had to teach, I had to sing. I think I was in 3 fully staged operas that semester. Yeah, it was a ton. And it was a really bad place. And the only time I was happy was when I was in my voice pedagogy class, because we got to hear several lectures from speech pathologists on campus. And I was like, these people get to do this all the time, but they're not miserable. Like they don't have to perform. And it killed me too, because performing was my life for like 20, however long I'd been alive. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is not healthy. Something has to change. And I remember it was October 21st. So oddly specific date, but I remember it. I was coming back from a rehearsal. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I called Emma, my wife, and I said, I hate this. I hate everything about what I'm doing right now, and I never want to look at another piece of music again. And obviously, I don't feel that way anymore. But I said, I think I want to do speech pathology. And she said, okay, do it. That's great. And I said, really? You don't think it's crazy? Because I'd thought about it before, but I thought, that would really be dumb to do 4 years of a degree and then go back and do something completely different. It would be like I wasted my time. But then I realized I don't care if I've wasted my time at all. I'm miserable. I have to do something else. And I researched it, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what I'm going to do, because this is a completely different field, but I am going to do it somehow. I'm going to get it done. And ended up getting in touch with a lot of speech pathologists. Tracy, who's Dr. Copeland's wife, speech pathologist, I called her and
I didn't know
talked to her about the decision. Yeah. Yeah. And I actually observed her for a few sessions. It was cool. But then came back to Birmingham and started over. And that was that, here we are,
that. I mean,
loving life.
thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing that, you were truly unhappy, and I think that's a really hard decision to make. And I think we feel so much. You probably feel pushback from yourself, maybe not from anyone else. And like, it's really nice that Emma was so supportive, because I think when you're when you're in a career path that feels so personal to, who you are and what your quote unquote gifts are, you feel like you have to like offer that to society in some way. And like I know for myself personally, like I'm probably a better writer than anything else, but for me, like my passion lies in like piano pedagogy, and that's like the things that truly just I just feel this like constant fire towards getting better. And I love writing, but that's it's just not my whole identity anymore.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, when you were switching over, did you feel like this sort of like kind of like butterflyness of having to let go of a part of yourself, um, in a different like musical identity? Or did you feel like it was a seamless transition for you?
I still feel a little, I still feel like I'm holding on to a big part of that life because music will always be
Of
a
course,
part
yeah.
of my life. It's so special to me. It always be special. But there were points in which, because I had to, when I came back to Birmingham, I had to work in music because that was what my degree was in, and that was the easiest way I could make money. That wasn't completely miserable because I was making money doing it. I could kind of have a little bit more freedom. I was teaching. I was a choir director at a church, so on and so forth. And but yeah, it was hard because when you're a musician, like you said, all of your identity is wrapped up into what you do,
Yeah.
and not just what you do, but how well you do it on any particular day. And which it's very that's a very sad way to live, but it's just how we live sometimes as
Yeah,
musicians.
it's true.
Um, so yeah, I'm still holding on a little bit to it, but I found that I still use some of that training and I still use my love of music in a lot of ways. Like just the other day, I sang to a patient who was going through a really rough time. And I said, "Do you want me to sing to you?" And she said, "Yeah." So I just whipped out a song and I can't even remember what it was, but
I
we
mean,
had a good
that's
time.
amazing. Yeah, I mean that's amazing. And of course those, we have to look through two lenses because, having that experience that you did have and I mean, the expertise that you have, like as a singer, is probably, it's very useful to, like you're saying, like what you're doing now. And I think that having that experience is invaluable. Um, did you have anyone like kind of push back towards? Because I know when I started kind of transitioning towards a little bit different path, I heard from a lot of people like, "Why are you doing that? You should play to your strengths, and that's like you're gonna be playing catch up forever." And like that may be true, sure, but like if I'm more happy doing that, then ultimately like that's a better path for for me. Did you get any pushback from people, or was everyone kind of supportive around you?
Most people were supportive, but I did get some pushback, and to them, I just said, "Well, look, you may not agree with my decision, but it's my life, and I know what I'm getting into. I am completely aware of what I'm getting into. I'm going to be, in debt for the next 75 years, and I'm going to be in school for at least the next 20, but I'm going to be happy. And this is what I want to do."
Yeah.
So
So,
how did you react to that
what do you mean?
when you got the pushback?
I mean, it was hard because I felt like maybe I should listen to those voices. Like, oh yeah, they're right. Like maybe I truly am better at writing, and that's it's. I mean, I still write. Like I still love to do that, and it's something that will never go away. It's a huge part of me. But I went through that same process of feeling kind of like depressed after school, and not and feeling like I had to do something because that's what I had a degree from. And I started to feel really resentful towards it. Like I just wasn't enjoying it, and I actually didn't write a piece of music for 2 years. Like truly, like 2 years flat. And I didn't feel bad. I was like, and I was shocked. I was like, what if I just never write again? Like, will I just die? and, and and like yes, I miss it, and I'm sure that if I spent a lot of time, I would get right back into that flow of creativity. But the amount of like passion that I feel towards getting better as a pianist, because I still remember going to concerts when I was starting to play, and truly the amount of like jealousy and like that I would feel like, oh my god, I just want to be able to play like that. And I think that's something that's always been a part of me, but I felt like, oh, I can't pursue that because I started too late. Um, yeah, so it's still like a daily, like it's not a struggle, but I definitely think about those identity shifts. So I have a little bit different question for you, which is, can you, for those listening who are wondering about speech pathology, can you clarify the difference between like a role like speech pathology and like music therapy? Because I think those really easily could get like interchanged.
Yeah, it's and we like to joke in speech pathology. Nobody knows what the heck we do. Even we don't know what the heck we do sometimes. But there's beauty in that too, because we do it and people are like, wow, it works. Keep doing it. Go ahead. Here's money. But uh, so that's a good question though. So music therapists deal they have such a wide scope. I feel like music therapists do. So obviously they utilize music as a tool to really engage the brain and the body to some extent. They'll work with babies in the NICU, because there's research that's
Mm.
growing in that field to prove that really sick babies actually start to get better and the recovery rates better when music is presented. And I don't know the specifics of that. Somebody could really. Our friend Abby is a good example of that. She's a music therapist.
Oh,
Abby Wright. Well, Abby Whitlock now, but
that's right.
uh, forget. We're all getting old and getting married. Uh, and then let's yeah, so they work with babies in the NICU. They all also work with maybe mental health patients, patients with really complex mental disorders, and then they go all the way into patients who are in palliative care, patients who are with hospice or end of life care, comfort care, and give them sort of that sense of comfort with music. And they'll also work with toddlers with autism, but they really just use music to work on. They can work on communication skills, but they don't go too far into that because that would branch into our practice. So that's music therapy. And then speech pathology, I guess the best way to put it is we deal with three things primarily. And this pretty much covers the whole umbrella. So we deal with how you communicate, how you think, and how you swallow.
Mm.
So those are the three basic things. So communication, we deal with, if a little boy can't say his R's, if he's saying W for R's, like instead of red, he says wed. We deal with that. Obviously, that's probably what everybody knows that we do. But we also work with kids with autism, adults with autism. We work on communication skills. We work on social skills.
Hmm.
For individuals with traumatic brain injuries, we can work on those communication skills and work on cognition, thinking, executive function. People who have swallowing disorders, we treat that. We diagnose those disorders. Kids with dyslexia, people with voice disorders, which is what, that's the reason I got into the field. So there's just so many things that we do. And that really only scratches the surface. But those are the two main differences. So with music therapy, it's more like comfort care, rehabilitation, for just like general rehabilitation. And again, that may be a completely ignorant statement. You may have a music therapist say, well, that's not right at all. But from my understanding, that's what I think it is. And then for speech pathologists, we're working on those cognition, swallowing, speech,
So it
all
sounds,
those things.
I could be totally wrong, but it sounds like music therapy is a little bit more geared towards like the mental aspect, and maybe the speech pathology is more geared towards like the physical aspect, like a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's, of course, a generalization, but it's
No, that's right. That pretty much summed it up. Sorry, I took 10 minutes to do that
no, no,
explanation. And
no. I love all those details. So now that you are like more into the medical side of, I guess you could say singing or what have you, um, would you have any advice for like younger singers, either professional or just in their free time, like how they can, little things that they could do to sort of improve how they're singing, just for the like the health aspect of their vocal cords or their voice.
Yeah. If it hurts, stop.
Love it.
That's put simply. No, I mean, really though, if it does hurt, no pain, no gain is not a thing in voice. Please, dear God, if it hurts, stop singing. And you might want to go see somebody if it continues to hurt. But be a smart singer. Don't just be a good singer. That's fine, but also know what you're doing. Understand what the voice is doing, and find a good teacher. And if you can't, I understand that not everybody can find a good teacher, but uh, there's all sorts of, and I say this with caution, all sorts of great resources like you, Maggie. You have great resources for young musicians and pianists and young writers and people in the realm of music on your channel. And there are tons of people just like you who are in the singing world who want to give out those resources, who are actually really good and really well trained.
Mhm.
But find a really solid teacher, because a really bad voice teacher can just mess you up. I mean, okay, so quick story. I was when I come back to Birmingham and I wanted to teach for a certain place down here. It doesn't matter where it is, but part of the interview process was they said you need to come interview with us, and then you need to take a lesson and teach a lesson to. So take a lesson from and teach one to their voice guru, whatever is, I don't know what his position. Oh, he wasn't like a chair. It wasn't anything that official, but so I walked in and man, this guy, I mean, the stuff he had me doing with my voice, I mean, I was in pain a little bit. And yeah, and I said, I don't think I should be doing this. He said, yeah, you can do this. You can do this. Everybody can do this. And I was like, no,
Don't say that.
I,
Everyone can do it.
yeah, no, we can't. Like, and by the way, you shouldn't either. Nobody should be doing this stuff. And I mean, I seriously thought about calling the cops on this guy because of how damaging he can be to young singers. And we disagreed on some very basic fundamental things of singing that nobody in their right mind should disagree with anyway. But anyway, so nevertheless, I left and I said, I don't think this is you have a good life, this is not for me,
Yeah,
but
not my
have a
path.
great day. Yeah. So find a good teacher, be smart, find all the information you can, and just know your limitations as a singer.
Are there any accreditations that vocal teachers can go through? I don't know. I just thought about this because I'm thinking about like how young people in general right now intake information, and so much of it is online and like YouTube. And I mean, I'm on YouTube, but like
Mhm.
I have degrees. But
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people like just out on the internet that you can just say whatever you want, and like it's easy to just feel like, oh, anything I see on the internet is like, Bible, quote unquote, and I can listen to that. Is there any sort of like things that maybe you can look for in a vocal teacher that could assure you that you're getting like good advice?
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a really good question, Maggie. So there are certifications. Obviously, there are university degrees. Make sure that if they have a degree, it comes from a reputable place. But even that isn't always a you know fail safe. You're still going to have some jacked up voice teachers who are going to come from some of the best schools in the country or the
Yeah.
world. There are other certifications, so you can be a certified vocalogist. A lot of voice teachers who do like rehabilitation things with people who have had injuries
Mm-hmm.
in their voice, like nodules, polyps, hemorrhages. Oh my! They will go to a vocalogist, someone who's been trained, and there are a few places where you can get that training. I think Westminster has one. There's a school in Texas. There's a place in Utah. They're kind of scattered about, but so that's another certification. Um, but yeah, so don't just trust the degree. Try a lesson with them, see how they work, see if what they're making you do is making you feel a little bit too uncomfortable, if they're making your voice go way out of its range for long periods of time. You should probably forego that experience and get your money back.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that yeah, you definitely have to go meet teachers, like whatever instrument you're in. Like it's really good to go and yeah, when you feel uncomfortable or like you just feel like it's not really a good fit or anything. So that's really important.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining
Yeah.
all of that.
Well, and
Um,
it's important too to, I'm sorry.
no, no, no. Please go ahead.
It's important just to have a teacher who's not afraid to say, you know what, I was wrong. Let's try something else. Let's not do that. Or if you ask them a question, they say, I don't know, but we'll find out together.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So like from because I'm technically like instrumentalist, like I would say the most common, you know, path that people get really stuck in for piano or violin or something is teachers who are really adamant about like you have to use this technique or like the Russian technique or you have to use this exact finger pattern or like you're never going to be able to play or this bowing or anything. What would the equivalent of that be for vocalists?
That's a good question. The probably the not there's not like a one size fits all for, and it's what you just explained, but especially for singers, everybody's voice is going to be different. So they might not be able to do that exercise that you're asking them to do, that whether it's lip trills or hums or singing through a straw, whatever. So probably the bel canto technique, everything, which is the technique that came out of the Italian school, I think. And I can't, probably Lamperti, I think, is the one. But I don't know. Dr. Diamond might like shoot me after I said that because it might not be right. But anyway, uh, it's that is pretty much what all technique is going to stem from, is the bel canto technique. But you don't have to just learn that. Like, if you want to sing country music, you're not going to have to know how to sing the bel canto technique. You
Hmm.
just need to know how to use your voice, how to get good resonance, how to not sound like every other person out there singing karaoke, and how to take care of your voice. You don't need to know, the you don't need to have to do those ridiculous
Yeah.
exercises because it's not practical for you.
So you just made me think of something. I don't know why I'm thinking. I'm thinking about all these like TikTok videos and things where people like they sing and everything kind of sounds the same. Can you please talk about the importance briefly of dictate? Like no, I'm thinking of the wrong word. Pronunciation, like pronouncing all of the syllables and everything. I'm thinking dictation, but that's not.
Diction, you're
Diction.
close.
Okay, thank you. Diction. Can you talk about the importance of that, like even as an amateur singer? Because I'm so tired of hearing people sing and I have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah, it's frustrating because half the stuff that's on the radio, God, I sound like an old codger right now, but I'm like, I can't understand what they're saying. And it's really frustrating because I'm like, I want to sing along to this song, or at least know that they're not sending some subliminal message to me through mumbling. So it's very important, and I even teach a few students now, and so it's so important to work on just pronounce your words. And it's going to be different for every style. That's a stylistic thing, but we should still be able to understand what you're saying, and you shouldn't mumble through things. And part of that's going to be like doing ending consonants, or maybe eliding some vowels, or maybe staying true to some vowels. Don't alter the vowel in a weird way. Like, don't let it trail off. And there are a lot of singers who are
I feel
doing
like
that
that's
these
really
days.
common, like in I don't know, like a lot of songs, a lot of popular singers, they almost sound like they have an accent, sort of, because of the way that they're distorting their vowels or things like that. It's like kind of interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, no, no. Go ahead if you want to say something else.
Oh, the other day I heard somebody singing the word, and I can't remember the singer, but she's made a ton of money and she's doing just fine without me. So she doesn't need me picking on her. But she it was the word one, and she said it, wine, wine. It's like she put her tongue up after she's wine. And I'm like, you don't walk
Yeah.
around saying, yeah, I'll have one donut.
It's like this popular style right now. It's kind of interesting, and then once you realize as an amateur singer that that's like really popular, it like becomes sort of mainstream, and everyone tries to copy that style, which is not bad in and of itself. But I feel like it kind of detracts from like the uniqueness of artists. Like in popular music, there's not like a formula, but I feel like there are certain things that get really popular, and then everyone takes a hold on that. But I kind of miss those days. Like I'm thinking, even when we were like a little bit younger, that like every band I listened to like sounded really different, and that's what like made them a good band or like made them a good singer songwriter. Was this like unique quality to them. Anyway, I digress. Um, so I wanted to know, since you're currently in, you're doing clinicals this semester, right?
Mhm.
So you're probably very busy and you're married and you have a lot of responsibilities. Do you still make time to practice yourself? Like, what does your relationship look like to singing nowadays? Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just when you asked me that, I was like, I'm going to hell because I don't practice anymore. I walk around the house and I'll do some, some of those goofy exercises, and I'll sometimes, if I'm driving in the car, I'll go and I'm like, okay, I still got it. It still
Still got
works. We're good.
it. Just check it
It's
in.
it's yeah, it's there. It's there. It's not as it ain't as good as it once was, but I do still practice from time to time. I'll serenade the wife. I'll pull out the piano and sing to
Wow,
her and
she's
make.
so lucky.
She has no idea. She has no. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So I do still sing, and I have to sometimes. I don't perform as much anymore. I was doing a couple shows there, jazz shows with a backing band a couple years back, and then something big happened back in March of 2020. I can't remember what it was, but it shook the whole world up. And again, I don't remember what it was, but
Right, yeah.
we're still going through it. And
Year and a half later, it's fine.
yeah, yeah. So I sometimes I practice. Yeah.
Well, even outside of practicing, I should have phrased that differently. Maybe not practice, but like, um, I don't know, like just what relation, like how do you view music as a part of your life now? Because, for me, I feel like the more professional aspect is maybe like piano related. It's going to keep doing that, I guess.
It's okay.
Is more like piano related, and then writing is more like a therapeutic thing for me, or I feel like it's like the thing that I go to when I'm having a hard time, or when I just have, a lot going on. So do you feel like you still go, whatever genre, like of singing, um, when you're just missing it, or when you need something extra in your life?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Music is that friend that I can go see now that there's like no obligation to see it. Other than I do still teach a few students, but as far as me personally, I can sing if I want to, but I don't have to wake up that morning and think, oh gosh, am I going to be able to hit that note today? Because it doesn't matter. Uh, so it's definitely, I've similarly to you, whenever I'm having a rough day, or if I just feel like singing that day, I'll just walk around the house or drive in the car singing. I sing to patients too, so that's always fun.
It's very nice. I'm sure they enjoy that.
Yeah.
So I just have one last question for you, and thank you for everything that you've shared with us today. So I know that you've gone in a lot of different paths, but I like to ask everyone at the end. So sort of, in general, what does music mean to you in a modern day sense, and sort of what role does it play in your life now?
So music to me is always like my first love. It will always be there. It's been with me through the roughest times. It's given me hard times, but I feel like it's been there, and it's made up for those hard times. So I feel like I'll always have an itch to perform,
Yeah,
even if I can't at that moment, even if I'm just too busy. And it'll always be special to me. And also, it's not just music, it's the people I've met. You, Maggie. I mean, you're one of my dear friends, and I haven't seen you in like 100
years.
years, but it is seriously, the people I've met in music has been one of the greatest gifts that it's given to me. And I'll always have those relationships. And it's taught me so much that I brought into this life and into this degree, both skill set and just executive functioning, how to think critically about things.
That's a really good point, actually, and
Mhm.
I believe that too. That's a really good point. So can you tell everyone, like, I mean, I know that you're not like currently maybe as active, but if anyone wanted to reach out to you, whether it was like a question about voice lessons or about speech pathology or anything like that, like where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on the gram, as the kids say. You knew I was going to throw something out there like that. You started laughing the minute I opened my mouth. Yeah, I'm on the gram at Austin Lee Foster. I'm also on Facebook, same Austin Lee Foster. And can I give my email out? Is that okay?
It's up to you
I
if
won't
you'd
give it
like
out.
to.
just reach out to me. Just reach out. Just follow me on the gram. See what I'm doing these days.
Yeah, Facebook is always a good way to get connected to, I think.
Yeah. I didn't know if it was a requirement to like put it in my email or something.
No, no, definitely not. That's kind of private. Okay, well, thank you so much, Austin. I really enjoyed talking with you today, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll stay in touch. We'll see each other
Yeah, let's
soon
do
at
it.
some point. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks so much, Maggie.